Hello, as always, I am Cosmic, and today we're taking a trip back into the Cold War era to review third-person stealth game Alekhines Gun. Now, the game was developed by Maximum Games, and the project was originally set to be a direct sequel to the Death to Spies series. Originally titled as Death to Spies 3, the project tried to crowdfund on both Indiegogo and Kickstarter, both of which failed under the development team at the time, Haggard Games. The project was then picked up by Maximum, who rebranded the game and is the first game to be developed in-house by Maximum. Alekhines Gun places you in the role of a KGB spy turned CIA operative. The game's story starts at the end of World War II as its introduction to your Russian-accented protagonist, and then heads abruptly into the Cold War era for the rest of its entirety. The plotline does hold a certain interest that is heavily eroded by the poor delivery of the narrative in every area. The static image cutscenes by themselves are not a bad thing, however there is a golden rule if you're telling a story via static screens. The audio has to be flawless. In Alekhines Gun, it isn't. The voice acting is perceptively amateurish, sounding like it was recorded in a public place, with the sound effects sounding like that they were being done by the voice actors themselves at the time by rustling bits of paper in front of them. The characters themselves are trope-like and bland, and offer no real incentive to invest in the story itself. Even Agent 47 from Hitman is more interesting, and he is bland by conventional storytelling standards. Maximum have been pretty bold in releasing Alekhines Gun on the same day as the latest Hitman installment, especially when it's a highly popular game that is a direct competitor in a genre that doesn't have all that many games on a regular basis. At a price tag of $40, Alekhines Gun needed to have solid stealth-based mechanics that could offer an enjoyable alternative to Hitman. It doesn't. To start, once you're in a level, you must go about completing your objectives in the order of your choosing. There are often several ways to complete an objective. For an example, an assassination can be done by creating an accident or perhaps poisoning the target's food. It plays very much like classic Hitman games: run around a level, find guard patterns, steal clothing to impersonate people to gain access to areas, and find unique ways to kill people. It has all the main components of a good third-person stealth game, however with some severe limitations. First, you can't go prone, which is weird in a stealth game that's about being hidden. You can't hide all that well. It's like your character has arthritis in the knees, and this is further emphasised by the sneak mode, in which the character just awkwardly hunches down slightly, but is able to sneak run at the exact same speed as you were able to normal run. The gunplay too, should the need arise to defend yourself, is grim at best. The controls overall are not great for keyboard and mouse, which is why I had to change to controller. I can forgive poor gunplay in a stealth-focused game, since that's not exactly what the game's about, but the sheer lack of feedback in the gunplay is something that was highly noticeable. One of the more major frustrating mechanics is the instinct mode, which is used to not only detect if NPCs are aware or suspicious of you, but it's also the way in which to detect items and interactable objects. Instinct mode has a pool and it will run out after extended use, meaning that if you use it too much to carefully sneak around an area, by the time you get into a room, that you may have to actually wait a good while to be able to see if there's anything in that room you can actually use. Some items can be used without the instinct mode, but the whole concept of the mode seems dated and unnecessary, especially when there's a completely separate suspicion meter that runs up when guards are observing your movements anyway. Instinct mode also brings up a minimap that allows you to see guards in your surroundings, which I'm pretty sure no matter how good your instincts are, you can't see through walls. The biggest sin the game commits mechanically is the AI, and not just because most of the NPC guards all have the same face and the character animations all look janky. The entire game works on the premise that you have to hide, sneak and disguise yourself to outsmart the enemy guards. Yet once you realise how utterly incompetent they actually are, you don't really need to. As soon as you're out of their sight, a guard will instantly forget any suspicious activity you were involved in. Some might start following you around, which is simply dealt with by shutting the door in their face, and they will leave you be. It's like, oh, I just saw you picklocking my boss's hotel room, but now you've walked into that closet, it seems like you weren't doing anything bad at all. The lack of any realistic AI breaks any and all atmosphere and tension the game had to begin with. You could literally walk up to a guard, poop on their shoes, and they'd still stand there looking inquisitively at you, wondering where the hell it all went wrong. The NPCs can also be exploited by the technical state of the game. It's a buggy mess. Forgetting the frequent crashes, odd graphical glitches here and there, you can bug out the game with collision by pushing the guards out of position from behind, or sometimes finding invisible walls to walk through. The worrying thing is that the majority of the bugs I found occurred from natural gameplay. I wasn't going out of my way to try and walk through walls or bug a guard out in the corner. In fact, quite the opposite. Stealth games are so enjoyable because you want to play the game as intended. You want to experience the atmosphere, the tense moments, the tension as you make a break for that restricted area door. Alekhines Gun, however, seems to unintentionally try and stop you from getting that experience at every turn. The level design of the game also becomes a disappointment in that while the levels are not huge, they are a fair size. The problem lies in that there's simply nothing there. For the most part, actual interactable objects are few and far between, and most of the levels are just empty. There are 11 levels in total, each one has an interesting and different locale. Some levels can look nice and interesting, but the game's dated graphic style and poor textures strip away most of what it could have been like. The game looks as little as good as Hitman 2 did back in the day, and I feel that if the developers had placed in a more unique art style, the game could have held up well. The major problem as a whole with Alekhines Gun is not in the core ideas. The core ideas of the game are solid and exactly what I want from a third-person stealth game. The issue lies in its execution, and the execution overall is very poor. There's just no way around that. Every single mechanic in the game could have worked well if done right. There's not one single problem in the game, but an amalgamation of problems that have created something that I wanted to enjoy but couldn't. I hope that Maximum learns the lessons from this and don't just shelf the genre as a whole. I hope that they objectively look at the execution and truly realise that the serious flaws the game has, and then build another game that takes the core ideas of this but does them right. For Alekhines Gun, however, I simply cannot recommend 11 buggy levels with terrible AI for $40. And that is my review of Alekhines Gun. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Do like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I will see you next time.